Welcome to Fragments, the video podcast where two ex-work colleagues turn friends and now turn business partners, Johanna and Marissa, navigate the wild world of business.
Join us for a real talk, laugh, and the occasional therapy session as we share our experiences, lessons learned, and ups and downs of entrepreneurship.
New episodes, new dramas, but the same old coal-fueled chaos. So, Johanna, this is, we're in our new season of Fragments, and it's been a while since we recorded the last season, but we've decided that we're going to do it together.
Yes.
Instead of on our own. So today we're going to talk about networking. We've been in the business for how long? 6 months?
6 months, yeah.
So let's have a guess. How many networking events do you think that you and I have been to?
I will say around 50 or 55, I reckon.
What? How many weeks would it be? 20, so 6 months, 26 weeks, even our weekly regular networking.
Sometimes for the last month, we have had like 3 events a week.
So I reckon we'd be up there about, 70. If you think about, we have our weekly, you attend a meeting, I attend a meeting, so that's 26 times 2, which is 52, plus the extra ones that we've been to.
Yeah.
So we could be pushing like maybe 80, 90 events.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, no wonder we're tired.
Yeah. all the time trying to make time to attend and meet people and network and...
But I think if you're starting out in business, I think it's really, really important to actually get out. You have to be out and about, and you have to meet people all the time. So what are the things that you think is good about attending networking events?
Like be open to conversations, having a smile all the time when you talk to people. I reckon doing making a question. I will say like something like, what brought you to this event? Being more, instead of just saying, oh, this weather is too hot or something like that. Just open a conversation to ask someone like, what brought you to this event? Or what do you do? Things like that are more relatable. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think being approachable. And I sometimes think if you go to a networking event and you wait for people to approach you, that sometimes can't happen. So I think you have to be the person that's smiley and approachable. And I agree, the open questions of what you brought to you this event, or who invited you to this event, or why are you at this event, I think that allows for the conversation to just be a little bit more open. And I think if you show an interest in them,
that's a good one. Like always, when you are trying to meet someone, is the value that you add to them, instead of trying to... Sometimes we go to an event and we know that we want to meet a particular person. But if you get close to that person and you try to help them in some way or show them some appreciation for what they do, they will be more interested in talking to you and, exchange numbers and all of that.
Yeah, and one of the things I find is that, and it sounds really weird, and I don't mean to criticize people, but sometimes when you go to a networking event and you're trying to be really open, but they start to sell to you.
Absolutely.
I have the thing where I just want to walk away. I don't want to be sold to. I want you to have an interest in me or learn about me, just like I'm trying to learn about you.
Absolutely.
And sometimes I'm a bit like, nah, and I'll walk on to the next person. And I feel really a bit rude for doing that, but there's got to be a connection and a care.
And even not only at the networking event, but on the first meeting, after follow-up meeting, I reckon it's more about knowing the person and what they do, instead of trying to sell in something, trying to understand what the person does and all of those things to be able to offer them something that you want in the future for collaboration.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something there with the follow-up, because I would prefer at a networking event to find out a little bit more about you. You appreciate that people have come to a networking event to meet a lot of other people. So you don't really want to get stuck with that person, because you've come to meet numerous connections. So I always find that it's really good to say, is it okay if we exchange contact information? It could be business card. The amount of people that don't have a business card at networking events cracks me up. But you can exchange or connect on LinkedIn or exchange the contact details.
Yeah.
And then get permission from them to say, are you okay if I contact you next week, and maybe we can organise a time where we've just got a little bit more time to learn about each other. And I think the follow-up is really important.
And also, there is an option on LinkedIn, because I find it hard, and I heard from a few people, it's like when you connect with someone on LinkedIn, sometimes you, like, because there were so many contacts, you don't find the person again when you go back home. So there is an option on LinkedIn where you can see the latest connections. So you can do that. Or the easiest will be like, follow the person, send a message always through LinkedIn. So the person have the contact and know who the person is and remembers you the day after. And probably take a picture, like a screenshot. That's what I do, and it works. So maybe,
So one of the things I thought was really key, and you mentioned it about maybe sending them a message, is I always think it's really good to, when you do send them a message, remember something from the conversation that you had. And it could be that, you know, they say that they're in Sydney next week on business, or they're going to Brisbane, or anything. I think it's really good to, you know, you connect with them and say, I hope you have a great business trip in Sydney. I look forward to hearing from it when you get back, when we book a meeting. So I always find if you can really make it memorable that you actually took care in what they said, that I think it makes them sit up and take a little bit of notice when you reach back out.
Absolutely. I think that's important. So do you remember any things that have happened to you while we were networking that were like?
I think there's been a couple of occasions where we're both from different countries. So we often can go to a networking event and we don't realise that we might be sat next to a sports legend or a celebrity or a personality,
and we don't know,
and we go, oh, so what's your name and who are you and what do you do? And they sort of go, huh? Like, they give you a second look as if to say, you don't know who I am. But then, but I also think they sometimes find that a little bit refreshing.
Yeah,
because then they can talk about other things besides what they're known for.
Absolutely. Like, that happened to me twice, and I feel that is funny because in some cases we don't know who they are, and we are like sitting next to a very important person, and we are like, oh my God. Like, people will say like, oh, it's so easy for her to talk to that person, but we actually don't know how successful or probably, you know.
And you can see that sometimes.
Figures they are.
Sometimes on the tables, they're either really, really confident or they don't have a clue who that person is. But I think my funny was when you were asking for a business card.
Oh, yeah. So it was at this... it's a cricket event.
It was when the test match was on.
Yes. So I sat next to like a
very, very well-known winemaker.
Yes. And
significant.
I was sitting there. And I asked like, oh, do you have a card? Like, I mean business card. And she said to me, oh yeah, I have a few. And I was like, business card? And she was like, oh, okay. I know what you mean. But I was like, oh my God, I know that you probably have so many cards. But
she thought you meant cars and you were talking about a business card.
Business cards.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God.
We've had a few. So I think there's been a few that I think the networking, but I think the key thing with people is we've been to a few networking events, and we've been to a lot of networking events.
Another thing that works is like, do you remember the time where we dress up similar, same color? And
yes.
So this one, like, sometimes we don't do it with purpose, but this time was like, oh, Marissa, what are you? I know Marissa asked me, what are you wearing? And I was like, oh, I'm going to wear a pink jacket.
Yeah.
And I went to the event, and it was very hot. So I was wearing a dress underneath, and I took off my jacket. And I was like chatting, and I was like, oh, where is Marissa? When I sat and I couldn't find her, she was like, oh, Johanna, I couldn't find you. And because I wasn't wearing the jacket. I didn't have the jacket on. You were looking for a pink jacket around.
Yeah, I think it's really important to wear a bright colour at a networking event, because people often wear business attire, and that can be very samey. So to stand out in a networking room, I do think you need to have a brighter colour on.
Yeah.
Because you can spot people. And then people realised that we were together and we were representing our business.
Our business. So they were like, oh, you have the same color, that's good idea. And we were like, people were more like into us asking those questions and trying to break the conversation about that particular topic, which was really good. Useful.
Yeah. I think one of the other things that I find really good, especially when we've gone to networking groups that are completely different networks that we've not necessarily been a part of or we're not known about, is one, it's really good to go with you because we're walking in the room with someone you know. Sometimes walking into a room and there's nobody that you know can be really intimidating. But I also think that both of us know how to network quite well and we don't stick together. And I think that's really key. So one of the things that we often find is that we will split up and we will work the room separately. But what I find really comfortable is instead of talking about myself, which can feel sometimes a bit awkward, is I end up talking about you.
And I do the same.
And then you do the same about me. So then when it is a good connection and we want to maybe pursue that with a follow-up, I end up coming over to you and going, oh, this is Johanna who I was talking about. This is my business partner. And all of a sudden the conversation is just really natural and a nice flow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that works very well. And another thing that I will say is like, you always have to go with an intention to an event, you know?
100%.
Like an intention of getting a connection. It doesn't have to be a particular person, but going with the intention of talking to people, trying to learn more about a specific topic that they're talking at the event, making, 3 connections. Try to talk to 3 people, at least, you know? And if you don't have the energy, it's better not to go. Otherwise, you will feel isolated in a corner like, oh, I don't want to talk to people today, because sometimes we feel like that.
Sometimes you can be too tired.
We sign up to events and we are like, oh, I really don't have the energy to do it.
But we've done that.
Yeah, and we still go.
Yeah, we always still go. But I think you're right. If you go to an event with a purpose, and I sometimes find that I'll go to a networking event because I know that I'm going to benefit from seeing the keynote speaker. I'm going to learn something. So sometimes it's not always about the connections. It's about what can you take away from that room. If it's not a connection, is it an event that you're going to learn from or you're going to get some knowledge from? But also, there's networking events that we go, something that wasn't really right for us, and we probably won't invest time again go into that event because it wasn't quite right for us. And I think that's all about finding your tribe.
And never forget to follow up the day after or 2 days later max. Otherwise,
yeah, you can be forgotten. People meet people all the time. Yeah. And I think the key is follow-up. So our tip for this episode is go to an event, make a connection, have a purpose for attending the event.
Yeah, and smile.
And follow up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to ask our listeners, what networking events are they going to be attending?
Yeah.
And did they have a plan?
And if they can give us some tips as well.
That'd be really
good.
Some
really good tips as well for us.
Yeah, so comment on the episode. We'd love to hear.
Thank you for surviving another episode of Fragments. If you made it this far, congratulations.
You must be a glutton for punishment or just really love us. We hope it's the latter.
Check out the Waybreaker Podcast Network for more great episodes like this one.
And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.
We will love you forever.
Or at least until the next episode.